I realize that for most content, TikTok is kind of ridiculous, and 60 seconds is a very silly amount of time to limit content to. But I guess that's reflective of the modern world that we live in with the short attention spans and so on that we're rapidly developing over the last 100 years or so. So we were talking about the Havamal, verse 38 specifically. Of course, if you're an Asatrua, Odinist, Norse pagan of any kind, you're probably familiar with the words of Odin, with the advice specifically that's given in the Havamal. This verse, like I mentioned in that last video, does resonate quite a bit with, well, especially the men, but I would say with a lot of various peoples around the world that have read these prose, these poems, this advice, and really taken it to heart. But I want to talk a little bit about why it's important. The actual meaning behind. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. Don't walk out the door without your weapons of war, be that whatever it is to you, whether again it's a blade or a spear or an actual firearm. You may live in the safest area in your whole state. Your whole country may experience 0 shootings a year. You may have no stabbings or hardly ever. You may live in a gated community. On and on and on, reasons why you think you shouldn't be prepared. But you're really just making a victim out of yourself. And in the event that something were to happen, nowhere is completely safe. Life is not 100% guaranteed. And it just seems like you do yourself a disservice, the people around you, if you feel any kind of duty to those in your community as far as protecting them, your family, if you travel regularly, whether you have kids, whether you have an elderly mother, grandma, or just even your buddies when you're out and about, whether you're male or female, your friends when you're out and you're drinking and or you're just hanging out somewhere at a restaurant, like you're walking back to your cars in the evening. You don't have a blade, you don't have any type of weaponry on you that you're proficient in using. That's I would call that a problem, and I would just call it a lack of responsibility. And so that's really what Odin is, in the words of the High One here in the Poetic Edda, in the Havamal, that's what he's saying is, whoever's giving this advice, whoever you like to think it is, they are communicating that purpose specifically. And that's why it's a tenet of the Varunian order, being that you never walk out of your house, you never venture forth unarmed. Sure, explore the world, go out and explore, live life to the fullest. But make sure you have some type of weaponry on you that you're proficient in using, and the places that allow it, preferably a firearm as your primary go-to. When that's not available, I think a fixed blade, which the Varunian order, we've specifically labeled these as an Ehrenstahl in German, honor steel. Something that has a ritualistic purpose in your mind that properly conveys the sacred duty that item may be required to perform. So just train up in something. I mean, sure, oh, my hands are a weapon. That's great. But if that's your fallback because the places you're visiting specifically don't allow firearms, or they don't allow blades of any kind, one, I would still find a way to carry, but of course that's completely up to you. I mean, I'm not recommending you break any laws. That's going to be a personal decision. But I would find a way to carry, or I would visit somewhere else, and I would give some other business my patronage, especially when it comes down to firearms. I mean, I'm in Texas. I know we're maybe a little stauncher about things like that, but I don't want to sit in a restaurant that won't let me be armed properly. At the bare minimum, they should allow concealed carry. And if that's not a thing, I've usually got the Ehrenstahl on me, the large fixed blade. And, other than just weapons of war, as is stated in the Havamal, verse 38, a large fixed blade, it just has a lot of utility to begin with. We've used it for sacrificial animals or just cleaning animals to begin with. You need to cut a box during the day. There's a million uses for a knife. So bare minimum, I would say be proficient with a knife or some type of weaponry, and just be prepared to use it if you need to, and don't get caught off your guard. That's what this verse is mostly about, is not being caught unawares. And you could take it deeper in saying that it's not just about weapons of war specifically relating to violence. I mean, in all areas of life, you should be prepared. You should be prepared to do what's necessary when the time comes. And, poor planning is not usually an excuse. Anything could happen, anything could occur in your day-to-day life. Hence why preppers have bug-out bags in the car, why we have first aid kits, why we have fire extinguishers, why we wear seatbelts if you believe in those. I mean, there's things we do, and we take preventive measures. So I wouldn't be lacking in those steps for your family's safety and for your own safety, just as a matter of course. But that's my 2 cents. That's what this verse means to me. Resonates strongly with my personal beliefs and with the tenets of the Vernian order. Always being armed was a very important core tenet to me when building out this personal ethos for the order. And so I'd appreciate any thoughts if it sounds asinine or it's not something that you do or would do in certain situations. Would you not be armed, and why? When is that acceptable to you? Either as a general just member of society or a Norse pagan, a heathen. When does it make sense to you to not follow that specific advice from Odin, from the words of the High One there?